Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Make It Simple TV. I am Heather Porter, one of your co-hosts, and I'm, of course, joined by my other co-host, Andrew McCauley. Now, this show, we bring in our inner circle of experts and friends and interesting people we meet across the world on the road to share their successes, tips, and resources for their life and business. So, Andrew, I'd like to welcome you to the show first. How are you?
Hey, Heather, I'm great. Thank you. Looking forward to another fun-filled episode. I think this one's going to be quite funny today, so looking forward to this episode today.
That it is. So let me introduce our interesting guest, who I've actually known this guy for probably, I don't know, about a year off and on, but we just connected again last week over a video shoot, and I thought he'd be perfect to bring over to you guys to share some interesting stories and also some tips. So Dan Steinhauer has over 15 years of hands-on experience in the audiovisual events and filming industries, having run and built several businesses with a focus on the audiovisual and video services for live events and corporate videos. He has worked in numerous countries on documentaries, seminars, events, bands, fashion shows, TV commercials, TV shows, and CD, DVD product creation. So this guy's an absolute whiz at all of your audiovisual needs. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hi, thank you.
So now, Dan, we always like to start the show introducing our guests, having you tell us your journey. So why audiovisual? What happened in your past to get you where you are right now?
Wow, well, I guess I actually started in my local church. It was quite a large church, about 5,000 people, and so it was quite a big auditorium, and I thought, oh, how can I help out? So I jumped in and started doing the audiovisual and lights and sound and stuff. I had no idea. I was a shocker. But anyway, I did it anyway and helped out, and by the end of it, I was actually running the whole thing, employed full-time, and looking after this quite a large sort of conference area. So that sort of got me into it. Then I decided, well, I actually want to make some money, not work for a church. I actually want to make some money. So I went out in business on my own, and yeah, it's just been a journey from there. So I guess I have then taken it on and become, well, I guess somebody in the industry who people turn to when they need to be able to trust somebody. So that's pretty much my story in the sense of that arena, yeah.
Now, do you employ staff as well in your team? You've been doing it for 15 years, so do you have staff that do it with you?
I do. But usually I use contractors because I find that, obviously people that I trust and have used in the past. So I train them up and get them working to my standards, not audiovisual standards. And so then I pretty much use contractors who become a part of my team. They get to know my ethos, the way that I work, the way that what I expect my customers would require, or my clients, or my team members, I like to call them. So I tend to think that it needs to be run the way that I want it to run. Otherwise, it's just some of these guys are just absolute morons. But we'll leave that one right there for the moment.
Hey Dan. So you've been doing this for a fair while, and they say that public speaking is one of the number one fears in the world, or the number one fear in the world behind in death. And I'm pretty sure jumping in front of camera for a lot of people is also right up there. Can you share any stories, any funny stories about when somebody was maybe a little nervous jumping in front of a camera, or something else that's a little bit funny on that when you're looking through the lens from the other side?
Sure. Well, I guess I take it a bit differently because I tend to sort of walk people through it. So I don't usually have the dramas that a lot of people have in front of the camera. I mean, I've seen some people do video shoots and it's just a nightmare, they get there and they become so over-the-top animated. And I must say, I did it myself because I like to talk, give me a bathroom, give me a mirror, I'm there talking. Not really, but maybe. No, that's not true. So you basically, I tend to walk them through this scenario. So I pretty much say, okay, look in my eyes rather than look in the camera, because as soon as you put a round thing in front of people's face, all of a sudden they just sit there and they just freeze up. And I guess one funny story, well, I've sort of jumped thing. So I basically talk them through it, and they're talking to me as opposed to talking to the camera because it just drives them crazy. They lose their train of thought, pretty much like I'm doing right now. So that was funny. What, you guys aren't going to laugh or what? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, back to me.
We actually mute ourselves here because all these extra noises pick us up and they take you off the camera. So we mute ourselves. So there's lots of laughter here. You just can't hear us. It's okay.
Yeah. My children say that too, and they're completely silent. They're just like that. So I've had situations where these guys are standing in front of the camera and they're literally standing there and they just stop. You know, they just freak out. They pause. They stop. They just look at this wide-eyed like a deer in front of headlights. And so pretty much trying to snap them out of that, grab them and shake them around the neck. And so I usually do, I work a bit with NLP people, trainers and stuff. So I sort of do a breaker state, which is where you do something completely random to just snap them out of what they're currently stuck in, that sort of mindset. And so, I might take my shirt off, or I might, throw out some funny jokes, or actually I wouldn't take my shirt off because that's just tragic. So I wouldn't do that because that's bad form. But, I would come out with a funny comment, or I'd turn the camera around and start filming myself to try and just snap them out of the sort of the worry. So usually when the deer in the headlights thing happens, that's what I tend to do. I've also had it where people just start talking randomly about, random stuff like, what they did on the weekend, and you just sit there and just go, wow, that's got absolutely nothing to do with property development. But that's cool. That's cool. If you want to, do that, that's fine. So, I mean, I could probably come up with some other, specific stories, but, it's a bit of a spur of the moment one. You got me.
Well, I'm sorry, I did fling that on you. So as this world becomes more and more technological, and we've got cameras everywhere and videos, are you seeing a rise in people requesting professional services, or are you seeing it go the other way where people are saying, you know what, I'm just going to stick to my phone and hope that's good enough?
Mate, that is a great question and a really interesting one. I used to run a DJ company actually when I first sort of started business, and so I sort of saw the whole iPod thing transform, and I thought, man, this is going to like revolutionize the DJ thing. So I quickly pulled out because it was just too much of a headache. Because all of a sudden, the value proposition of having a DJ at your wedding or at your function, all of a sudden they were like, nah, man, that's, I'll just play the music myself. I can make a playlist and Bob's your auntie. So I decided, well, I'll get out of the DJ thing, and then obviously I started moving into this sphere. But in video, there's such a disparity or a difference between the homemade stuff and the professional stuff. It's actually gone the opposite direction. I think that people who need high quality, top of the line video for their business, because it is such a high converting tool and medium especially for websites, it's unbelievable. But if you don't have the right video, and I've seen some shockers, and I've seen gurus who have some of the worst videos and the worst sound that you've ever seen in your life. These guys who basically put in the whole PowerPoint slides and the voice in between, and it sounds like they're literally sitting on the toilet with the door closed so that it's got as much reverb as possible. It might even be inside the toilet. It's that sort of echoey. And then they've got the slides, and the slides aren't synced up, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So these guys, the gurus especially, are starting to go, well, I think high quality is actually important. And so I'm actually seeing the difference, the opposite to that, where they're actually coming in and saying, okay, I'm willing to just fork out cash to make sure that we get the right thing. And the biggest thing with videos, and I'll probably jump into a question that you're going to talk about later, but one of the biggest things with video is the story. There needs to be something that's going to grab somebody's heart. You can do a great video talking, face-to-face on a camera, but if you don't have a story that's going to grip somebody, I mean, you've literally got 7 seconds to grab somebody's attention on a website. Is it 7, or it might even be less now?
It's less. Yeah, it's actually less.
It's less. Heather says it's less, so it's definitely less.
It's less.
So, it's less. Yeah, it's better. about half a second. But whatever it is, it needs to actually grab them and grab their attention. Otherwise, there's so much entertainment, so much media, so much stuff out there to grab people's attention that if you don't do it right, then you're going to miss out. And people realize that, and they're willing to spend the money and actually do it. Yeah.
Good question. Good response, actually. And Andrew and I, because we've been doing websites for a long time, when we were starting doing websites, like what you probably noticed, we noticed that it was okay to have ugly design. It was actually something that was taught. Yeah, just stick up an ugly website. And now it's completely having the opposite effect. You have to have good, beautiful design and good websites and good videos as well. Dan, what is one resource or tool or something that you use in your business right now that you just simply cannot live without?
Whew. Truthfully, it's the mobile phone, because one of my biggest things in life is family. I've got this sort of known as the goofy daddy. I try to make everything based around my family and fun. So the whole goofy dad thing, I make sure that I'm out on the road with my kids as much as possible. Picking them up from school, picking them up from band and stuff like that. So I tend to be able to do a lot of my work on my mobile phone. And the iPhone, I know Samsung people, whatever, but I use an iPhone, and I just find that you can pretty much do everything you need to do on the road. So, I mean, yes, we've got an office, yes, I've got staff there, yes, I've got, blah, 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 but at the same time, as the boss or the person who runs the thing, because I do a lot of the physical hands-on stuff, the iPhone, I just couldn't live without it.
Yeah, it sounds like us. So, let's get into some of your tips. So, what we'd love for you to share with us are 3 simple tips using your area of expertise with our viewers that they can actually start to action and implement in their business straight away.
Okay, alrighty. So I think number 1 is definitely use video on your website, definitely. And whether that's, it doesn't matter if, the most important thing is that you've got momentum, that you've actually started. And so even if it's, the really poxy videos where you're just sitting there and you're reading underneath the microphone like this, it's okay to start with as long as you're starting to get momentum. So video is an absolute key for business. Secondly, getting the right technical professionals in to help you. So for example, if you're doing events, the amount of times that I've been to events where they've just had the in-house person in the venue looking after the audio visual, and it's literally just completely killed their event. Let's say it's an event where they've got 500 people in the room. I've seen it where, which I've happened to be at, all of a sudden the music doesn't work, the PA dies, and this guy's just like, I don't know, man, I don't know how to fix it. It's like, well, actually that's your job, that's your, and so then literally they've lost about $500,000 worth of income because all of those people walked out. So all of a sudden it's like, well, the balance between paying for a professional and not, it doesn't make sense. So that's the second one. The third one, well, Google Hangouts is pretty cool. This is the first time I've done this. That's pretty cool. But no, that wouldn't be it. I don't know. Can you come back to me on that one?
Yeah, we can come back to you. I just wanted to say that I think having a tech pro is extremely important. Heather and I have been involved with events, large events, real large events across the board, and we've seen all sorts of tech, especially the audio guys, and we've seen some of the best in the world, and we've seen some tragic ones. And you're right, it just makes such a difference to the actual event. And we know that we've seen it, and until you've seen someone be able to do this, but a tech person can really make the difference, make the event something that's memorable versus just another information seminar where people go, oh yeah, I listened to the guy and walked away. That whole background music, the audio, the sound quality, everything goes together to make an event an amazing event. And if you've got a good tech guy, then you are sure to make money from a good sales event because it's a great experience. So I'm glad you brought that up. And it's not just tech stuff either. We're in the whole website business side of things too, and we see the difference between crappy website developers and good ones, and it can really make the difference for the experience of the person visiting those sites.
Andrew, you know what I like what you're saying is, like we've been talking about this a lot lately. When people come to us, they're thinking that we're the same thing as IT, as a web designer, developer, copywriter, and strategist, right? They compartmentalize. They're thinking that, oh yeah, that's what an IT person does nowadays. It's all these things. In the same way that for an event, you think, oh yeah, I'll just get one person in there, and they're not only going to know how to do exquisite sound, but they're going to do great slides, good lighting, understand when to cue the speaker. It's the same sort of thing. I think there's a great conversation happening right here, and the fact that when you're looking for an area that's outside of your expertise, there's so much more involved than having just one person, and you should never rely just on one person. You should look at their expertise and then the team and what they know around them to bring it to you. Now, I have a little prompt for you, Dan, for your simple tip number 3. How about this? How about, let's talk a little bit about gear. So we just said earlier, some people are using their smartphones to do video. If somebody does not have the budget, and you're saying they should just get going with their momentum, what gear should they have as far as lighting, microphones, and a camera?
Okay, well, look, I would say eBay is a great place to start, because you can get entrance level or quite cheap, I shouldn't really be telling you this, but quite cheap Chinese copies of different lights and bits and pieces. So for a couple of $100, you can actually pick up a decent lighting kit. You can even get a green screen for a few $100s. You can get even a teleprompter. There's a great teleprompter called Prompt It, and that's basically, you can put an iPad on there and you can sit that in front of your camera, and then you can read whatever the text is, and you can run it via your iPhone as well. So you can actually run the app with your iPhone. So that works really, really well. And it's moderately cheap. I mean, a couple $100 again. So mind you, the iPad's a bit more expensive, isn't it? So if you can, obviously it's better to get a professional camera or something that's a little higher end. However, even an iPhone, as long as it's not smashed up like my iPhone, which I keep on dropping, I don't know why I do that. Maybe it's the kids, or I'm throwing it at the kids. Oh, shut up, kids! Anyway, so those cameras are pretty good, and if you can put that on a stand and actually be filming yourself, as long as you're not too far away, because it doesn't necessarily. The new iPhone 6 apparently has a bit more adjustability. You've got the focal point and all the rest of it. But for a basic video, if you're just starting up, the iPhone's just absolutely fine. So you can actually Rode, R-O-D-E, have a great microphone. It's like a lavalier microphone, they call it, like a lapel, which you can basically plug into the bottom of your phone, and it just runs in and Bob's your auntie again. So then you can just get really good quality sound. Alternatively, I got one of these little puppies. And it's not R2D2. No. It's actually a microphone, and this thing is very, very good. Hey, you got the same one. It's very, very good microphone, and they work really, really well for picking up great sound. So you can actually have one of those in the room. It'll give you a nice big sound, and you can use that. So they're pretty reasonably priced as well.
Hey, I want to add an extra level to this. Yeah. So you've given us the ideal specs around some equipment, but with so much equipment out there, there's all these people buying it, and suddenly they're now the next best videographers and that sort of stuff. What should somebody look for in a person? Like, what sort of qualities does a good tech videographer person? What should they possess in order to say, hey, you know what, I've got myself a good deal here, rather than get someone who doesn't really know what's going on and pretends they do?
Sure. Well, there's two aspects. Obviously, there's the technical aspect of knowing a little bit. You don't need to know, like, the person doesn't need to know everything about the camera. The most important thing is connectability, so that you can actually connect with the client, and the client feels comfortable with you, that you can actually sit there. And the most important thing of any work that I do is fun. You know, it needs to be enjoyable for everybody. And I've been in the highest stress situations where things just aren't working right before an event, you know, and we've got 4 cameras going, we've got, you know, and then everything dies. If you can't be, if the person that you've got involved can't be relaxed enough to deal with that situation and be fun enough to actually still enjoy life and help the speaker or the person who's in front of the camera to relax and enjoy life, then it's just not worth it. You know what? The stress of dealing with a techie person who is just completely, I know exactly how this camera works, you know, it's just not worth it, because it's more about the relationship and the connection between the person in front of the camera and behind the camera, that you've actually got a relationship. And you know, I always throw in comments to take people off guard, because they get so caught up and consumed in themselves that all of a sudden they lose connection with the people who are viewing them. They lose connection with themselves, and the message. All of a sudden, it all becomes, you know, just like R2-D2. Here he is again. Is that R2-D2? Yeah, it is R2-D2.
I call him the Yeti.
The Yeti. It doesn't look like a Yeti. Oh, I guess maybe with the hair.
He is, though. He's a blue Yeti, right? That's the brand. And by the way, that's what it is, guys. It's a blue Yeti microphone, Y-E-T-I. The Yeti has, yeah, different colors. Pretty cool.
Yeah, mine's a black Yeti, just so you know. So most important is that connection, yes, so that everybody's comfortable. Because when you're watching a video and you see somebody that's not comfortable behind the camera, all of a sudden everything becomes tense. You're sitting there and you're like biting your fingernails, just going, man, this is just tragic. I can't listen to what he's saying. All I can see is, you know, that hair that's you know, messed up, or, you know, he's got a twitch in his eye. All of a sudden you start to see the imperfections, because you know, you're just getting driven crazy by this person who just can't connect with you. So
what if somebody's really bad in front of the camera? Like, do you ever tell them that? Or, I mean, because it's an interesting situation when you're there with him, right? And you're trying to do something like a corporate promo video, and you know it needs to be a certain caliber. What do you say when it's that moment of, oh?
Oh, look, the most important thing is to keep it real. Well, it's not the most important thing. Fun is the most important thing. It's the second most important thing, is keep it real. And so part of that dialogue between you and the person in front of the camera is whether or not you can be real and honest with them. And so I'll sit there and go, you know what, dude, this is just not working. You know what, you're looking like a stick, and you know, you may as well just talk to the wall. And so then I'll say, okay, let's try this. I'll do a breaker state again. I'll get them thinking about, you know, the best pasta they've had, or I'll get them, you know, doing a joke or doing a skit or something to break them out of their state. Then I'll get them to either speak into a teleprompter so that they're actually reading the lines, or let them watch themselves and actually see how awkward it really is. So, but always be honest with them, but gently. You can't just say, look, man, you suck! You suck! I can't work with you! You just got to be like, okay, man, you know what? This just isn't working. You're a bit awkward here. You're driving me a bit crazy. Can you imagine what people are going to be like when they're actually watching you on TV or whatever, and it's just not going to work. So how about we try it this way? How about you try and relax your shoulders, breathe in deep, think about the best pasta you've had, you know, and stuff like that. So
good advice to all of you thinking about doing camera work. Dan, what's one thing about you that not many people know about?
Well, I've got this rash, which is, oh, no, not that.
That's the wrong hangout. The wrong hangout. You're hanging out the wrong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, this isn't the. Yeah. I'm not going to go there. What's one thing people don't know about me? I used to actually be classically trained singer. So I used to sing opera and stuff like that. That's.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
I think you should prove it.
No. It was a long time ago, brother. You know what? Now I'm a rock star, okay? I'm a rock star now, not an opera singer. No, it's not true.
That's funny. What's a quote or a mantra that you like to live your life by?
Mm. Okay, that's a great one. I've actually got Jill Bailey, who is I don't know who it is, but it was a great quote, and I keep it on my iPhone, I keep it on my computer, and it's don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go and do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. That was it.
That is
That's,
good. Thank you. Wow,
that's
that's a good one, Andrew. I like that one.
yeah. You can borrow it.
It is good.
I'll borrow it. So, what is one major life lesson that you've learned?
Man, having kids is the biggest life lesson I've ever learnt because it basically grabs you, rolls you in breadcrumbs, and cooks you. It's insane. Every life lesson you've ever learnt basically gets shaken up and tested because I think a lot of the self-help type of things, you can learn a lot about yourself, you can learn a lot about decisions and all the rest of it. But until you have somebody who's completely dependent on you, and I mean, their bad decisions of the future are your bad decisions right now. So I think that is the biggest life lesson of my life is seeing the effects that my behaviors and my actions actually have on my kids. So swearing in front of them. No, I'm only kidding. But the behaviors, the things you say, the way that you react to situations, even to be really frank with everyone who's watching, drinking alcohol. All of a sudden, my 11-year-old son has started to say, to be tough. He's like, oh, I'm going to grab this bottle and drink it, and it's like, dude, that's not being tough. That's ridiculous behavior. So all of a sudden it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to stop drinking because it just doesn't mean anything to me, but I can see the effect on my children, and so it's really important to make decisions that are important. That was a long answer. Sorry about that, guys.
How many kids do you have?
I got 3.
3 kids.
Three human children. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. And what would you like to be known for? As we wrap this up, what would you like to be known for?
I think that quote pretty much sums it up. That I lived for what the world needs is living for. That purpose. We've just moved into starting to do films overseas, which is really exciting, and so it's doing creative with purpose is my mantra at the moment. It is. Doing movies or creative or even videos for corporates that actually have purpose and storyline behind them, not just another video or another movie or another TV show. It's actually got to do something, and I hope that when I kick the bucket and everyone's sitting around drinking cognac over my grave or whatever, they sit there and go, well, he was a funny guy. He was a great dad, he was a great husband, and a really cool friend. And you know what? He lived for what he believed in, and he lived for his purpose.
Wow. Thank you for that, Dan. That is wonderful.
Here ends today's reading.
You are a funny guy, by the way. I like the goofy daddy thing that you were saying in your bio. Guys who are listening, as we wrap up, I just wanted to say that one thing I learned from Dan the session we were working last week when we were doing a video is absolutely that whole thing of it's okay to tell your client when they're not getting it right. It's okay. You're the expert in that situation. Don't be scared to do that. And exactly what he was just saying. Have fun. So he's breaking up the moments right, left, and center by trying to crack a joke and just keep the whole situation lighthearted. So really good little lessons on that. Now, Dan, where do people know more about you if they want to hire you or work with you?
Sure. Well, if you in Australia, if you call 000 and you ask for Fireman Sam. That's such a dad joke. Sorry, guys. I apologize. Look, you can go to Art Production House, which is aartproductionhouse.com, or I've got. I don't really use Twitter. I'm very bad on Facebook. I just don't use social media. It's bad. I know. Sorry, guys. Heather, I need your help. So you can either go to Art Production House, that's AART productionhouse.com, or email me on Dan, D-A-N, at artproductionhouse.com. There we go. And I've got a Google Plus account, I think.
You got one. I think Heather's trying to talk while it's muted, and often doesn't work. But
really?
I'm on now. Andrew, I was just going to say, any last words from you before we say goodbye?
Thanks, Dan. It's been great connecting with you, and loved hearing those tips too. It's fantastic to meet you. And if you're listening out there and you're interested in video, I highly recommend that. Video is the way to go. So get somebody good like Dan to help you with that endeavor. Thanks very much, Dan. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Andrew. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You can learn more about Dan over at makeitsimple.tv. We have the episode there with some information about him as well. So thanks, guys. We'll talk to you in our next episode of Make It Simple TV.